Finish with a book and don't act like you don't know. The coming race is about a race that live underground, very advanced, and when there, I'm not sure when. The book explains very well. The guy is very smart, intelligent, more than me, so he'll do good job.
Therefore, right of birth, I am a native of, in the United States of America. My ancestors migrated from England in the reign of Charles II, and my grandfather was not distinguished in the War of Independence. My family,
So you check the timeline. I'm not
therefore,
ready to
enjoyed
explain
a
it
somewhat
right
high
now.
social position in right of birth, and being also opulent, they were
He was work, guys. I'm not sure right now what.
considered disqualified for the public service. Once ran for Congress, but was signally defeated by his tailor. After that event he interfered little in politics, and lived much in his library. I was the eldest of 3 sons, and sent at the age of 16 to the old country, partly to complete my literary education, commence my commercial training in a mercantile firm at Liverpool. My father died shortly after I was 21, and being left well off, and having a taste for travel and adventure, I resigned, for suit of the almighty dollar, and became a wanderer over the face of the earth. In the year 18, happening to be in, I was invited by a professional engineer, with whom I had made acquaintance, to visit the recesses of the mine, upon which he was employed.
Say the name. It's maybe better.
The reader will understand, ere he close this narrative, my reason for concealing all clue to the district of which I write, and will perhaps thank me for refraining from any description that may tend to its discovery. Let me say, then, as briefly as possible, that I accompanied the engineer into the interior of the mine, and became so strangely fascinated by its gloomy wonders, and so interested in my friend's actions, that I prolonged my stay in the neighborhood, and descended daily, for some weeks, in and galleries hollowed by nature and art beneath the surface of the earth, that far richer deposits of mineral wealth than had yet been detected, would be found in a new shaft that had been commenced under his operations. In this shaft we came one day upon a chasm, and seemingly charred at the sides, as if burst at some distant period by volcanic fires. This chasm my friend caused himself to be lowered in a cage, having first tested the atmosphere by the safety lamp. He remained nearly an hour in the abyss. When he returned he was very pale, and with an thoughtful expression of face, very different. 7. From its ordinary character, which was open, cheerful, blank. He said briefly that the descent appeared to him unsafe, and leading to no result, and, their operations in the shaft, we returned to the more familiar parts of the mine. All the rest of that day the engineer seemed preoccupied by some absorbing thought, taciturn, and there was a scared, bewildered look in his eyes, as that of a man who has seen a ghost. Night, as we two were sitting alone in the lodging we shared together near the mouth of the mine, I said to blank, "Tell me frankly what you saw in that chasm. Sure it was something strange and terrible. It has left your mind in a state of doubt. Case two heads are better than one. Confide in me."
So the guy don't want to tell him and tells him finally.
"I will tell you all." When the cage stopped, myself on a ridge of rock, and below me, the chasm, taking a slanting direction, shot down to a considerable depth, the darkness of which my lamp could not have penetrated. But through it, to my infinite surprise, streamed upward a steady brilliant light. It be any volcanic fire? In that case, surely I should have felt the heat. Still, if on this there was doubt, it was of the utmost importance to our common safety to clear it up. I examined the sides of the descent, found that I could venture to trust myself to regular projections or ledges. I left the cage and clambered down. As I drew near and nearer to the light, the chasm became wider. At last I saw, to my unspeakable amaze, a broad level road at the bottom of the abyss. Road at the bottom of the abyss, illumined as far as the eye could reach by what seemed artificial gas lamps, placed at regular intervals, as in the thoroughfare of a great city, and I heard confusedly at a distance a hum, as of human voices. I know, of course, that no rival miners are at work in this district. Those voices? What human hands could have levelled that road and marshalled those lamps? The superstitious belief, gnomes or fiends dwell within the bowels of the earth, began to seize me. I shuddered at the thought of descending further and braving the inhabitants of this nether valley. Without ropes, this nether valley. Nor indeed could I have done so without ropes, as from the spot I had reached to the bottom of the chasm the sides of the rock sank down. Abrupt, smooth, and sheer. I retraced my steps with some difficulty. Now I have told you all, you will descend again. I ought, yet I feel as if I durst not. A trusty companion halves the journey and bless the courage. I will go with you. We will provide ourselves with ropes of suitable length and strength, and pardon me, you must not drink more tonight. Our hands and feet must be steady and firm to more. Blank. With the morning my friend's nerves were rebraced, and he was not less excited by curiosity than myself. Perhaps more, for he evidently believed in his own story, and I felt considerable doubt of it. Not that he would have willfully told an untruth. He must have been under one of those hallucinations which seize on our fancy or our nerves in solitary, accustomed places, and in which we give shape to the formless and sound to the dumb. We selected 6 veteran miners to watch our engineer descent, and as the cage held only one at a time, engineer descended first, and when he had gained the ledge at which he had before halted, the cage re-arose. For me. Selves with a strong coil of rope. For me. I soon gained his side. We had provided ourselves with a strong coil of rope. The light struck on my sight as it had done the day before on my friend's. The hollow through which it came sloped diagonally. It seemed to me a diffused atmospheric light, not like that from fire, but soft and silvery, as from a northern star. Quitting the cage, we descended, one after the other, easily enough, to the juts in the side, till we reached the place at which my friend had previously halted, and which was a projection just spacious enough to allow us to stand abreast. From this spot the chasm widened rapidly, like the lower end of a vast funnel, and I saw distinctly the valley, the road, the lamps which my companion had described. He had the sounds he had described. He had exaggerated nothing. I heard the sounds he had heard, a mingled indescribable hum as of voices and a dull tramp as of feet. Straining my eye farther down, I clearly beheld at a distance the outline of some large building. It could not be mere natural rock, it was too symmetrical, with huge heavy, Egyptian-like columns, and the whole lighted as from within. I had about me a small pocket telescope. By the aid of this I could distinguish, I mention, 2 forms which seemed human, though I could not be sure. At least they were living, for they moved, and both vanished within the building. Now proceeded to attach the end of the rope we had brought with us to the ledge on which we stood. By the aid of clamps and grappling hooks, with which, as well as with necessary tools, we were provided. We were almost silent in our work. We toiled like men afraid to speak to each other. One end of the rope being thus apparently made firm to the ledge, the other, to which we fastened a fragment of the rock, rested on the ground below, a distance of some 50 feet. I was a younger and a more active man than my companion, and having served on board ship in my boyhood, this mode of transit was more than to him. In a whisper I claimed the precedence, that when I gained the ground I might serve to hold the rope more steady for his descent, the ground beneath, and the engineer now began to lower himself. But he had scarcely accomplished 10 feet of the descent, when the fastenings, which we had fancied so secure, gave way, or rather the rock itself proved treacherous and crumbled beneath the strain, and the unhappy man was precipitated to the bottom, falling just at my feet, and bringing down with his fall splinters of the rock, one of which, fortunately but a small one, struck and for the time stunned me. I recovered my senses. I saw my companion and in mate mass beside me, life utterly extinct. Bending over his corpse in grief and horror, close at hand a strange sound between a snort and a hiss, and turning instinctively to the quarter from which it came, I saw emerging from a dark fissure in the rock a vast and terrible head, with open jaws and dull, ghastly, hungry eyes, the head of a monstrous reptile resembling that of the crocodile or alligator, but infinitely larger than the largest creature of that kind I had ever beheld in my travels. I started to my feet and fled down the valley at my utmost speed, stopped at last, ashamed of my panic and my flight, and returned to the spot on which I had left the body of my friend. It was gone. Doubtless the monster had already drawn it into its den and devoured it. Rope and the grappling hook still lay where they had fallen, but they afforded me no chance of return. It was impossible to reattach them to the rock above, and the sides of the rock were too sheer and smooth for human steps to clamber. I was alone in this strange world, amidst the bowels of the earth.